All right, guys, another fun episode interviewing our Elevate 360 mastermind members in my year-long elite mastermind, where we work with these women to take a 360-degree approach to business and life to grow and expand and create impact in this world through your business. Today, you're going to be hearing from Dr. Ginger Bratzel. And if you are a healthcare practitioner listening in with desire or are in the midst of launching your own business, you are going to want to listen in as you hear her journey of pivoting from being practicing as a dentist and realizing that when she created her own marketing strategies, she was able to blow away her P&L with profitability to the point that her accountant was referring her to other dentists to improve the efficiency and productivity of their practices, which I'll let you listen in, turned into a huge pivot in her career and her life to being the marketing maven that she is today, teaching and serving other healthcare practitioners in lead generation for their businesses in new and innovative ways to create thriving practices. And not only is she doing this for dentists, but all healthcare practitioners out there today. Her systems, her SOPs, and her process have been proven time and time again with thousands of different practices to get the results they desire. So hope you guys enjoy this story.
Need some effective, tactical advice that actually helps you get results and makes a real difference in your life and business? You've come to the right place. If you're finding yourself here today, it means you're getting ready to gain serious traction in your business, rapidly multiply your income and impact, and you're ready to make it happen while living all out. Guys, I'm Melissa Hinault, your trustworthy corporate dropout turned six-figure business burnout turned happy and healthy CEO of a multi-million-dollar online business. And you're listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. On this show, we're serving up innovative growth strategies, simple implementation methods to put them into practice, and action-stimulating inspiration tailored specifically for the modern entrepreneur. Let's dive in.
Awesome. You guys, we've got Ginger Bratzel here today, one of our Elevate 360 mastermind members. So excited for our Burnout to All Out listeners to hear your journey, Ginger, today and how you've really been able to become that director of results. So welcome to the podcast episode.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love being with the people. I love everything about this program.
So I am so excited. I really want people to hear about your journey and your story. So what I love is we have some parallel lives here. I mean, you were a dentist in practice. I know I had a doctorate in pharmacy. So we come from these clinical places and now we're in this digital space.
Right.
And so I think that you have a really interesting perspective that I'm really excited to bring to our listeners today, because I know I still have a lot of healthcare practitioners that listen to the podcast and I want them to hear your story and how you've been able to pivot. So let's go back to the days of when you still had your hands in people's mouths, seeing patients daily.
Right.
And there was a moment at some point that clicked. Maybe it was gradual, but when and how did the shift begin to happen for you to move out of seeing patients in the practice to being a strategic partner in delivering results for other practitioners?
Right.
How did you get into that space?
By accident, because out of necessity, running a practice and trying to do all that stuff. And when you're the CEO, you're the provider, if you're sick, everything shuts down.
Right.
And you're like, how do I do more? And your body can only go so far. So it was that struggle. And it just drove me nuts. And I thought, and you probably had this experience too, to be successful, you had to have a doctor in front of your name. That's what my family taught me.
Yeah.
And, I throw that out the door now because there's so many successful people that made it on their own, but that's the only way you could do it. So that's what I was struggling with in my experience. And I said, I've got to change this. And so I was looking at being a better dentist. And I had more equipment and more overhead and more initials after mine.
So when you say better dentist, like being more efficient, seeing more patients,
Well, I
just better.
needed more degrees. I needed more certifications. I needed more, all that. And, patients didn't give a rat's ass. Right. It didn't make a girl to practice. And I said, I've got to think about this differently. So I took that dentist hat off and said, well, how would I do this differently? And I look at other businesses and I'm like, people don't know what I can do for them. And so that's when I fell into marketing out of necessity for myself. I started dabbling with that. And where I had struggled for years and my overhead was going up and all I do is amassing debt, that turned around like that. I mean, it was like a light switch. And I'm like, wow, this is rocket science. And I was so happy to be in that position that I created that for myself. I still didn't see the big impact until I got a call from my accountant one day. And he said, I need to talk to Ginger. He told my office manager, which he never interrupted me at work. So I thought I had done something really bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed a tax return. Something's wrong. And so I went back. I'm like, what did I do wrong? And I picked up the phone and said, Ginger, I'm in your QuickBooks and there's a problem. There is too much money in the accounts. And I've gone back several months and it's not like a typo that someone put an extra zero one day. It's consistent. So I need you to pull out every day and we're going to have to go through day by day and figure out what's going on. And I'm like, I laughed. I'm just going to Skip. I said, no, Skip. We're just doing things differently. He said, explain this to me. What do you mean? And I said, I'm running the business differently. And I told him how I was building a marketing business, how I was giving patients what they wanted, how I talked to them differently, everything like that. And he got quiet again. So I thought I was in trouble. The authority figure. And I'm like, and he's like, is this something specific for your practice only? And I'm like, no, is this something that only you can do? And I'm like, no. He said, could you teach this to others? And I said, yeah. He said, good, because I have 3 dentists that I have to make a phone call right after that their numbers are way down. I'm going to give them your phone number. Please coach them through and get them out of this. And he found my first 3 clients. And it's like the systems, the frameworks translated across the board.
Wow. Okay. This is beautiful. So this is like the nitty gritty of entrepreneurship, right? Like there was no path.
No.
You created the path. Like you created the yellow brick road. There were no yellow bricks, right? And what I love about this is that you saw a problem, you solved it. Now, what I'm curious as we start to navigate this journey for you is you began to create a more profitable practice, but you also launched another business teaching other. So what did that look like before you transitioned completely out, where you were still seeing patients, but you had launched this other business and you were kind of straddling both at the same time? Like, what did that look like?
Well, that's exciting because it was a new direction. And it gave me energy. My kids, I only had one child at that time. And so I was young. I had all this energy. I had a very supportive spouse. And so, everyone says, oh, you're a doctor. You only work 4 days a week and must be nice. Well, I start seeing patients. I walked in, turned the door, the lock on the key at 7:30, and then I walked out at 5. I was getting up at 5 and doing my marketing stuff for other people before I went there. At lunchtime, I'd be there. In the evenings, I would do that. And then on Thursday night, I closed my doors. I was jumping out of a plane, going somewhere until Sunday, coming back and doing that. And it was just so much fun because I was seeing the growth in them. I'm seeing people who really deserved what they needed and giving that to them. And so it was so exciting. I came energized back to my practice on Monday. And that was a fun journey for a long time.
Well, I love what you said here. We were just talking about this with a fellow podcast interview. And that is that when you're in full alignment with what you're doing and you see the through line to the implement, you have an unlimited amount of energy.
Right.
To fuel you, right? When you're fully aligned and just on all cylinders and delivering what the universe has called in for you to do, it is effortless, right?
I call it being in the vortex. I live in Buffalo and I'm from Oklahoma, so I can say that when you're in a tornado, those things are massive. There's the force of nature, and that's what I felt like was in the middle of all that. And I could just control and go all over, and it just gave me so much energy.
That's phenomenal. Okay. So then the next step, which I think is profound, because I know I actually remember the day, I don't know if you've done this, but I'm actually have not renewed my pharmacy license. Okay.
I did for a long time.
I did too.
My mom,
just in case.
My mom, she's like, my gosh, you spent so much time and energy. I'd hate for it to go. And I missed one of the deadlines. And I said, what would happen?
Right.
What would happen? And then I'm like, I don't even know when the date I didn't renew, but I'm like, I don't care.
Okay. I remember, and this is why I was wondering for you, It was the year my business did $1 million in revenue. And I'll never forget, it was towards the end of the year and my CEs were due for pharmacy. But I also had all the accounting and tax work. I had all this other stuff I needed to do for my business that was actually creating an income. I had this moment where I was like, I only have so much time. Time is money. And I need to make a decision. Do I really want to spend countless hours doing these CEs for a plan B?
Right.
Or do I want to burn that ship?
That's exactly it.
Double down and fully commit on this. And that was the year that I let it go.
When I was leaving practice and I was doing marketing, I put this line. I said, when I sell my practice, I'll do this. And it never got there. And so I just had to say June 26th, I know the date, June 26th, 2011, I will not practice another day. And I told myself that. And when I put that in there, everything fell in place.
Yes, you made a deadline.
Yes. And so I was chasing that win, I'll be happy when. I will do this win. No, I did that. And I said, come hell or high water. And I mean, not only did I stop practicing, I moved states. So I would have to license in another state. I sold my practice. I sold my equipment. I sold my patient base. All of that, I had nothing. So it was like, you are fully committed to what you're going forward. And I had no problem with that.
Wow. Yes. That is such a pivotal moment. We have those moments in life where you look back and it was such a life-changing moment. What did that mean for your family? Like, how was this ripple effect to the way you ran the household and the time that you had with your family?
I have a phenomenal spouse. I mean, if I told him I want to jump off a bridge, he's like, where do you want me to drive you to? I mean, when I was here today, he's like, go get what you need out of this. He just supports me in so many ways. And my kids, I wanted them to know what a mom that works looks like. I love my mother. She was a teacher. She was at home for a long time, but I wanted them to know that they could do whatever they wanted. And I never thought of myself as a girl or a woman. I just wanted, as a person, I wanted them to understand that. So I thought that was very important. The big thing for me was my extended family. Like, my father just passed away a few years before, and he was my biggest advocate. I'm like, I don't know what he would say about this. And so when I was telling my mom, she was the last person I told that I was leaving practice because I just couldn't deal with it. I was ready for that drop. And she said, you know what? There's never been a time in your life you have not landed on your feet. So go get them. And I was like, oh my gosh. Thank you, Mama. It's incredible.
That's incredible. I love this. You've been on this entrepreneurial journey for quite some time.
Oh, I'm an old schooler in this group.
Yeah. So, and I love this because there's so many highs and lows to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
There's peaks and valleys. And, I'm a firm believer that we're mostly climbing. We're sliding and occasionally on a peak. Right?
I feel like it's zigzag all the time.
And at every level, it's a vantage point that's growing us and sculpting us for the next level of who we're becoming.
Right.
When you look back on your entrepreneurial journey, are there any major lesson that really evolved you that you can share with our listeners today? Just maybe something difficult that you had to work through that ultimately ended up working for you, or something just major that you've learned that you would tell your previous self who was just getting started.
Well, fear is a big thing, and that cutting the cord and that, guaranteed success, which is no such thing. Mm. And so, my first story that I already told about that was really hard to pull that cord. And I mean, I don't know if I would have taken the jump if I didn't have that accountant saying, I need you to do that. I wasn't thinking that big. And sometimes you need those people in there. And I tell my clients this, life's a ladder. Dentists are the worst. They have to know everything. And I said, there's no way you can know everything. Yeah, I'm just going to get you the next step because you're going to have a whole different perspective. So just trust me on this. And once we get there, we'll talk about the next one. You will have a better understanding. But they're like, no, explain everything to me. No, you'll never get there. And so part of it is surrender. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that, there is going to be frustration. There is going to be these walls you hit, but it's a process and you cannot dictate steps. You can only predict the outcome. And that's what your goal to shoot for. And so for me, it's just surrendering to it. And when I surrender, I get back in that flow. I'm that tornado and I'm like, oh, I would have never thought about it. Like this whole year in 360, I had that question. Someone asked me, how was your experience? How's your business evolved? I said, I'm totally different. And I could not have told you that a year ago because I have to go through that process. And everyone can go to Costa Rica and solve their problems in a conference for a week. But you have to be in this for a year. You have to go through life. You have to be the nitty gritty, the personal and professional to get where you need to go.
So true. And it's like when you're in the midst of it, sometimes it's hard to see what evolution is actually happening till you come out on the other side.
You know what really helped me go from making $1,200 per launch in 2020 to making over $800,000 per launch in 2023? Guys, I'll give you a hint. It wasn't a secret formula. It wasn't a magical hack or strategy. And it definitely wasn't a grind till you die mentality. You guys, it was getting in the right room in front of the right people. And that right circle of influence raises the bar, helping us set new, higher expectations for ourselves and elevate our standards for the life we live and the business we operate. Because the truth is that we don't know what we're truly capable of until we get into the room with the people who are going bigger than us, scaling higher, and showing us what is possible. When you join us in Austin at Burnout to All Out Live this October, you will be stepping into the room. This 2 to 3 day experience, depending on if you go VIP, is the most results-oriented event for business owners and entrepreneurs. It's unlike any other event you've attended. If you're looking for dynamic growth opportunities, cutting-edge ideas, a supportive community, and energizing inspiration to help you elevate your business and upgrade your life, you'll find it at Burnout to All Out Live. But I have to warn you, last year the seats sold out weeks in advance. As a matter of fact, our gold VIP tickets, and I'm recording this ad in January, are totally sold out already. They've been snatched up. We do have some silver VIP tickets for that extra third day, and there's a good chance we're going to totally sell out this event again. So if you want in, I encourage you to grab your ticket now before the prices go up and the silver VIP tickets are completely gone. Check out the show notes from this podcast episode for the link to grab your ticket to secure your spot at Burnout to All Out Live 2024, where we will be elevating you. Or if you have a web browser handy, open up a new tab and go to www.burnout2allout.co/live-events. Can't wait to see you there.
I really love what you just said a minute ago about the accountant, though, who actually identified the opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild? Like the trajectory that completely changed your life, right, came from an accountant who noticed your numbers and was like, you are an outlier and you should go tell other people about this.
Right. And you have to listen to those, because I could have poo-pooed him down and said, oh, you're so kind. But you're like, no, he planted that seed. He had to put it in there. Because I was explaining, I was just copying another business that I saw. It was an oil business. And he said, I could have put 10,000 dentists in that oil change place and they would not have saw what you saw to make that change. And I was like, huh.
Yeah. It's wild. How many practices to date do you think that you have impacted?
Easily thousands. Because it's a ripple effect. And given some of them a little nuggets and some you dig deep. They're private clients for a long time. But I mean, I've been doing this so long and people see those stories. They get that inspiration. Even if it's like, hey, I can do this too. I know the impact.
Yeah. And I guess this will kind of dovetail into today and kind of marketing strategies and growth. What's working well today? What's trending well when it comes to marketing strategies for identifying and lead generation for clients on social media or just marketing in general for practice?
Well, I think dentists rely on insurance. And I keep saying dentists, but I work with all healthcare profession. And I really like the ones that are not tied to insurance because they have to think differently. So they're like, I'm a cash-based business. I can't rely on insurance to cover my butt. And you're like, if I have insurance, they're going to come in. So I see that trend in those people more. We've got to think like other businesses. You know, they do social media, but it's a post. It's National Toothbrush Day. Who cares? Who cares? They want to know about you as a person. They're choosing you as an individual. That know, like, and trust factor that they all know about, they'll mention, but they won't get it. So I'm shy. And video is so phenomenal in expressing because you get your cadence, your tone, your views. They get to connect with you so much. And I don't think people do enough video. You teach us video all the time, but they're like, that's work. But we videotape our whole lives anyway. So why not share that with everybody?
Yeah, it's so good. I know you've talked before about like not so much the self-promotion, oh my gosh, of the products and services, but one you can connect.
Well, you have to talk about the client's needs. So it's not that they want veneers or they want Invisalign. They want to smile with confidence. I want to be able to eat. I want to go to my daughter's wedding and my ex-husband's there with his new younger wife, and I want to smile like the happiest bitch on earth. That's what they really, but they don't, you can't say that. You're like, they're not looking for your credentials. They're not looking for your American Dental Association.
That's so true.
She's like, I want to crush it at the
right.
And they're afraid to say it. And then even when we talk about like Invisalign, which is, everyone knows what Invisalign is. But, when I talk about a family with a 12-year-old for the Invisalign, they have certain things. But if I have a 45-year-old woman who's put her family first and now it's her turn, or she had braces and now her teeth are crooked again, she's got different motivating factors. So it's got to know your audience and what really resonates with them. But it's confidence, it's convenience. I don't know if we have the time to do this. Is it going to hurt? Those are the things underwhelming for everybody we really need to bring out.
Yeah, totally. I know convenience is a big thing for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fascinated at these dentist offices that are actually open on weekends. I'm like, that's fascinating. And it's an interesting business model for those of us who
have a different life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to do things. Well, and then they think, well, I can't work 7 days a week. Well, don't open up during the week. Or you bring in an associate that does those hours. There's ways to get around evenings and afternoons, early mornings. There's different things. You don't have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
So create those options. Or we're looking at the next dentist. We're not comparing ourselves. I'm looking at Amazon's going to say it's going to be 3 days to get here. Oh my gosh, I can't wait 3 days. I need the 1 day.
Right.
Fast food. We're looking at different things as priorities in our lives.
Yeah. So true. So true. Well, let's talk about the client-patient journey and how to set up for conversion. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I find the number one thing that people come to me, and I say dentists, but I mean all healthcare professionals, like nobody can afford it, or they say no, and they need this. And so we call the objections. That's the wall. Well, that objection, they always want me, what do I say at that end to get them over there? And it's like a date. You asked her to marry you, and she said no. It's not that moment.
Right.
Everything that led up to it's from that social media post where they got to see you for the first time and really fall in love with you or give you a chance. It's the way the phone was answered. There was how they was greeted, how long they waited in the room. All of those little things, I call them triggers along the points. And they're little minor things. You don't think much about them. But if you get too many no triggers, you get to the end, they won't do it. I think one of the biggest things, I'm going to give your audience a little clue here, is I call a patient liaison. So when you're discussing treatment, the doctors say, you understand? The patient's like, yeah. And then they go up to the front desk and they're like, no. There's a disconnect. And so I call it the doorway effect. Once they walk out that room, their brain's so like a computer with 1,000 tabs, they shut them all down and they can't remember any of that. So this liaison that I talk about with my clients is in the room with them. And when they walk out, that person's their anchor, their magnet. When they go to the next part, they're going to stay with them and they'll remember what they're supposed to have done. And so we find that increases conversion. So that's all about making it easier for the patient to say yes.
I love that. I love that idea. It's interesting. I have a bone to pick with my own pediatrician dentist. And one of the things from a patient liaison perspective, and maybe I had some tabs closed and I didn't hear it. My first 2 kids never had any cavities ever.
It's always the last one.
And so with the third, I'm like, am I just failing and becoming a lazy parent? Is this how the cavities came? Because I'm not hovering over him and making sure he brushes his teeth like the first 2 because I'm just an exhausted parent with the third child? Or is it like, truly something different with him dental wise? I don't know. Maybe it's the granola bars he likes for breakfast every day. But beyond that, he had to have a procedure with the cavity. And it was never relayed to me that he was going to be put under nitrous or that he needed to not eat that morning.
Oh.
And my life as a busy entrepreneur running multiple...
But you have to be mapped out.
Totally mapped out, right? Got his appointment, barely could fit it in my schedule. We get there. They already have the nitrous on him. And they're like, he didn't have anything for breakfast this morning, did he? And I was like, yes. And they were like, oh, wait, turn the nitrous off. I'm like, why? And they're like, he can't have that before. And I'm like, no one told me this. There was no paper sent on with me. There was no phone call.
No SOP.
No, right? And I was livid because as a really busy, high-performing human, that was time in my calendar, now wasted.
And the trauma to him.
Yes. Oh, he didn't really care much, but he wasn't traumatized, but he was excited to come back for a second time and get a little gift bag. But it was having to come back and reschedule.
Right.
Right. And so I hear what you're saying about that customer journey, because the last thing I'll say, and this to our listeners who are in the healthcare space, I had all 3 kids booked at 4:30. I got a phone call at 4:15 from the dentist's office saying I was late. And if I wasn't there in the next 10 minutes, I was going to have to reschedule. And I got there and I opened up my email confirmation and showed them that they were wrong and that I was actually early, and that this was multiple occasions of them having poor SOPs.
And don't give me their name because they need some help.
They're a local dental practice with children. I can't remember the name, but I'll tell you after this. And I was fuming on the way. I was fuming. And I said, I'm just giving you feedback because this is really, really poor patient and parent, just
the communication.
I was like, you didn't even check to see, like, there was no, like, even like understanding why we were late, because we weren't even late,
right,
early, but you just jumped in and are threatening me as a patient. And I'm going to lose my appointment when I was actually early, and it's your scheduling issue. And the only reason we're still there is because they're so conveniently close. Right?
That one factor, that's all for you, but that one trigger is gonna it's gonna go away for you.
They're losing, right? But the pain of having to do all the paperwork, go to another practice is the only reason I haven't done it yet. But it's like, it's going to be the straw that breaks that. Right. So you help practices.
Well, and they're so busy in it, they can't see it. They need outside eyes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then staff is turnover. Oh my gosh,
new faces every time.
Right. And you have to, that training and stuff. It's like, we've done this training, but Susie wasn't there for that. She doesn't know that. And there's no SOPs. People are making it up. Dentists, God bless them. I love them. They like to do what they do, but they're not leaders a lot of times. And they're not entrepreneurial as far as, I want to set up a system to do this.
Right.
And so I want to give them that. I was like, you go do your thing and I will take care of the rest of the stuff. And that's where I feel the gaps.
Well, and it's just, I love this, just to kind of underscore this, what you just stated, is that a lot of time practitioners are really good at their crafts, but they have no natural or trained skill set. Where do you learn that? Right. Which means so many practices are probably running wildly inefficient.
Right.
Wildly less impactful than they could be, less profitable.
And the stress.
Yeah.
The stress. And that's what, I want people to be able to do it as long as they want to. I don't want them worrying about finding the right people. There is subjective things for all of this. They're going in and hiring people just off of their gut. I feel okay about it. Or I need a fresh body. We need to be slower to hire and faster to fire.
Yeah.
But there's ways to quantitate that. And when you have a good team, they want to stay around with you. And it makes your life so much better. And you have more vacations and you're happier at home.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And when turnover is less, it's less disruptive to the practice. It's to the patients.
Yes.
Yeah. I know when I come into my practice and there's a new hygienist every time, it's like, oh gosh, is this one? Some of them are really rough with your gums,
yes,
and some aren't. And it's like, am I going to get Sally with the rough hands, or am I?
Nobody wants that turnover.
Right.
You want to be taken care of by somebody you know, like, and trust.
You check in with every year or every 6 months.
Right.
Have that established rapport. Let's circle back to the mountain peaks and the climbs and the slides, because I know one of the things you wanted to talk about is pulling up your big girl panties when shit gets rough.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So can we talk about that?
It's hard. It really is. I mean, it's always great at the beginning because you're on this journey and you're climbing, but you're going to hit your walls and we fall down. And you call it the crying, sobbing in the bathroom.
The bathroom floor, ugly girl cry moment.
Ugly girl cry moment. And I'm like, I'm leading these people and I don't know how to lead them. Life gets in the way, things like that. And so those moments, those are tough. And I think that has more to do with your success than knowing the other stuff. It's being able to be resilient, to know that you're going to get through it. And it goes back to that conversation with my mom, you've always landed on your feet. And you have to believe in yourself for doing that. But sometimes you have to have outsiders tell you, stop this. I have a 24-hour rule I give my clients. I said, I will cry with you and grovel and we'll do everything. But tomorrow at this time, we are moving on and we're not talking about this again. Okay. So being able to do that is really critical.
Yeah, that's a buzzword I love speaking to. It's resiliency, right? I think that the common thread to successful business owners is their ability to be resilient. Because like you said, shit is going to hit the fan.
It's not if, it is.
And sometimes you get in a big cycle of shit, and sometimes you're in a little cycle of shit. And it's really up to you how long you stay in that cycle of shit as to how you approach it and how you have the right tools in your tool belt to move through it and keep going.
Well, I have a general rule. This is what I tell them. When they're crying about something happened, I said, if you could write a check and the problem goes away, you don't have a problem, okay? If your kid's sick with cancer, that's a real problem. But if you need to hire somebody else, a piece of equipment broke, or, you have to get someone a refund, you wrote a check and that problem went away. Move fast, write the check and go.
Yeah, such a good point. My motto with my team when they freak out because something broke or something went wrong or whatever is, did anybody die? Because back where I came from in pharmacy, if I made a mistake, someone died, right? So if no one died, we're all right. We're okay.
It's a success.
Yeah. Especially in this digital world. Like, I know we've had scenarios where an email blast goes to the entire list and it was only supposed to go to this, and it's like, did anybody die?
No.
Let's move on. Maybe we'll look at our SOPs and figure out where the breakdown was, but nobody died. So good. Well, this is a great kind of dovetail into one of my second to final question. And that is being in the Elevate 360 Mastermind. It's all about a 360-degree approach to you because bodies build businesses.
I love that quote. I've leaned into that so much this year.
So where have you transformed the most this year in business or life, taking this 360-degree approach?
I think my goggles are not so, I know niches are riches, but I'm sitting there and I was looking there and you guys would tell me, you said, Ginger, you could do so much more with some more different people. And so opening that up, the opportunity, having a bigger target audience has been really great. But, being able to handle what comes down the pike. And like you said, I've been around enough. I know these changes are coming, but they still a little bit of shock, and you have to sit there and I called it at our retreat marinating.
Yes.
So when something comes in, I don't necessarily react on it. I have to sit and let it brew in me a little bit and decide what it's going to do and process it. And so that marination time is really important. So it's a new idea or a new philosophy or things like that. There's no way I could have mapped this year, and I wouldn't have tried to anyway. But you have to trust the process. I think I'm being very graphic and just good forewarns people, but I told you the very first time, I said, if you tell me to eat a cat turd, I will eat a cat turd. That's our I just will write you what, because you don't always understand the process. So if believing in that and going forward, my body is one of the areas I think I'm going to do the most and continue to work the most on because I've relied on my head for so long. And so there's been a disconnect. And so as my body comes in, I feel that balance coming back.
Yes, I love that. I think many of us high performers come from a place of living in our heads and our bodies suffer tremendously.
Right.
Because we're ignoring the telltale signs of the stress, the trauma, all the things. They just get bottled up. And we're not moving through them. And we don't realize that they're the cog in our expansion, until we can get to the root of it. So I love that so much for you.
Well, on our head sits on our bodies.
Right.
So you can't ignore it.
Right. That's such a true point, right? So good. Well, Ginger, what do you have going on right now? Tools and resources. I know you are just a marketing whiz and queen when it comes to attraction of clients and patients in the online world.
Right.
What do you have out there that you can share with our audience?
Well, let's go back to the objections. I think for this healthcare professionals, getting to that last thing, why are people saying no? It's a whole process, and they don't understand that process. And so it's something I teach my clients very early on. So for your listeners, I will do something special. I have a training that I do for my people as onboarding to getting over these objections, time, money, pain, all those things, any healthcare professional. And so if they reach out to me on LinkedIn or if they link it out to me on Instagram at Dr. Ginger Bratzel, either way, and just DM me and say, burnout, I know it's yours. It's super secret, guys. It's not a website. I'm not going to ask for your email. I'm not going to ask for your firstborn. I will just send it over to them and they can have it.
Amazing. Okay. Tell them what your handles are one more time.
It's Dr. Ginger Bratzel, Brat, T's and Tom, Zel. And that's where I'm at both places, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing it with our listeners. And thank you for sharing your journey. I think that your transition and your transformation have been so beautiful. And I know that you're still on your journey.
But I ain't done yet.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in. Thanks for flying all the way into Charlotte to do this episode with us
I
today.
appreciate being here.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys, so much for listening in on today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to see my upcoming guest in the next episode. You are going to love this keynote speaker. Hey, here's the deal. If you liked this, please subscribe and leave a review. And you want the latest online business growth strategies and exclusive LinkedIn pro tips sent straight to your phone? Text the word update to 704-318-2285. That is, text the word update to 704-318-2285. Can't wait to see you guys. Come find me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you like to hang. I cannot wait to hear how you are enjoying and applying what you're learning. You guys reach out to me over on social because I love hearing what's resonating with you. When you reach out to me and you send me those personal DMs, they really do impact the content I continue to bring forward to you. So again, come find me, Melissa_Hinault over on Instagram, Melissa Hinault over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Can't wait to see you guys over there.